is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Veronica Mars, Season 1, Episode 8, Like a Virgin. In this episode, man, guys, why do women have to deal with this garbage? Why is this the world? And also, I was right. I was right. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. I have got a pretty active chat going on today in the Crowdcast. This episode is brought to you by Agnes Leguillon, and I am right. Just saying that. I really don't get to say that yet, because this dude who suggests what I have been theorizing this whole time is clearly like a little bit off and also seems to want to just hurt Veronica a bit. So I feel like there's something to be said for the fact that it's a red herring from the show, considering that I sort of zeroed in on it myself as quickly as I did. But it just feels like the logical reason why, I don't know. I guess we have Veronica's mom doesn't seem excited that she's dating Duncan. And then Duncan's mom seems to hate Veronica also. But we don't really see what his dad thinks of him dating Veronica. And I feel like it could just be that Duncan's dad doesn't know, but maybe it's because how does he not know but his wife knows? Does she just suspect and he's just fucking clueless and it's never even occurred to him? I mean, maybe. Like, it's not like guys aren't like that sometimes, but that seems really weird. Oh, Agnes is saying my name is pronounced Agnes. Like pinata. Don't like the English pronunciation. Agnes Leguillon. Is that right? I've never heard it pronounced that way with a silent G. All right, cool. Agnes. Don't like the English pronunciation. I don't blame you. Yeah, I feel you on that. So, all right, this episode, there's a lot of the typical slut-shaming bullshit in this that's really tough to watch. And I was talking right before I actually started the Crowdcast about how for a patrons-only show at Halloween every year, I do Unspooled, which is me reading a collection of short stories or, allegedly true stories that people have submitted to, different websites, to Reddit, and I have been having to sift through a ton of stories of just men harassing and terrorizing women, which, don't get me wrong, are scary, but also I just wanted some spooky ghosty stuff, and this is just kind of bumming me out. And this episode really ties into that whole, rape culture, societal issue, and it's in the Brett Kavanaugh event cycle that we are in right now. It's really tough to see this being laid out in such bald terms, because it really is like this in school. And we all treat that as being very normal. And it not only should not be normal, but it is appalling how little is done about it. Like, the teachers that are, the most they do is be like, see me after class. Really? Is that okay? Cool. How about detention? How about anything, So, yeah, this episode there's also like the reputation thing with beyond school, with things like getting back to parents. And that's the part that I found pretty upsetting also, which I think is sort of where Veronica is at as well. Because things start to bleed over into how Wallace's mom sees her. And I mean, I don't even blame his mom that much, because you have to like put out feelers and get a sense of people in a town to a degree, just so that you can like know what not only is a good idea for you in terms of who you hang out with on a direct level, but the impression that you're giving to everybody by hanging out with a certain person all the time. Because that's just something that is reality. And that's not to say that like, well, even if this person is perfectly fine, if the neighborhood doesn't like him, then you should shun him to gain their approval. But if there is somebody that like, you know, everybody kind of has an idea that this person's like an abuser, and you suddenly are buddy-buddy with them, I feel like that's going to give an impression to people. Or not, you know, society's garbage, so who knows. But yeah, this was something that I respected the show actually going there, because it's not addressed enough, I don't think, how much this like high school reputation and like gossip mill can affect the quote real world. And I hate that sort of like talk, because it implies that kids in high school are not living in the real world, and it is real. Hi, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that is the relationships that are formed in high school, and the way you're treated in high school, and the things you learn in high school are going to stick with you forever. Like, you can break out of certain things, you can leave certain bad patterns behind, but that takes work, and that's not something that is done easily, and you have to have some self-awareness in order to achieve that. And the fact that we act as if everything that happens in high school is inside a vacuum, and then you can just leave and do whatever you want, as if none of that ever really affected you, or as if once you're out, you can just be like, well, that was high school, and like shut the door on it, is so disingenuous and really just wishful thinking, I feel. And yeah, this getting back to his mom is like just what would happen. And I like that the show addresses that those are the things that bother her. Idiots in school throwing like little shitty comments towards her, she can get past that and kind of let it roll off her. But when it's her friend and his mom doesn't want her to like hang out with him because she thinks something vague, you know, about Veronica, that's like such a bummer, man, you know? Having adults influenced by the shit that people say. And obviously this isn't just about what people are saying about Veronica. It's also about her father's reputation in the town being tarnished now. But nevertheless, like, there's, you know, things go hand in hand. So anyway, I haven't even like started talking about the actual episode really. But we have Veronica meeting with the former attorney of the guy who's accused of murder, who's like confessed. What is this guy? Cliff McCormick is the attorney's name, but I can't remember the name of his client. Somebody help me out here in the audience. Abel Kuntz. Thank you. Yes. So he comes in thinking that he's been summoned by Veronica's dad. Spoiler alert. Veronica's dad does not know she's doing this and would not be happy with her if he did know. And whoopsies, she's just going behind his back and pulling some shit. She's real serious about just going behind his back too, because she actually goes to the prison to see this guy, which is bananas. And I don't remember if like we see her make a fake ID or anything, but like I don't feel like you get to visit somebody in prison who's like going to be on death row without handing over an ID and like getting your photo taken, and a lot of precautions being taken. So if that's the case, I feel like she's going into this sort of knowing eventually her dad's going to have to find out about it, right? Because that's what she does, is she asks for forgiveness rather than permission. But yeah, so this attorney, she like tries to present him with these photos about like telling him that this might get him out of this situation, and he is not interested. She wants to get him to see, what is it? A judge? I'm trying to rewatch this because help me get in to talk to Kuntz and I'll judge whether he's crazy for myself. Okay, so this is just her trying to, and she wants Kuntz to agree to see her. I'm just going to jump ahead real quick because this is kind of taken care of within this scene and the last scene. He reacts in a pretty unexpected way to seeing her. It feels like Kuntz is taking this fall on purpose. He tries to trip her up. Like, there's a look in his eyes when he sits down that made me go, okay, this guy totally knows who she is. Like, he's trying to trip her up with the Pear Blossom Festival. He's trying to, like, you know, tap dance around it to get her to, like, expose herself so that he can embarrass her. And finally realizes, like, that's obviously she's got this sort of clamped down. So I'm just going to have to come out and say that I know who she is. This actor, his name is Christian Clemenson, is really creepy. Holy shit. He has this sinister, ice cold sort of vibe to him that is really unnerving. And it makes me understand why they would convict him. Like, this is somebody that I would 100% meet and go, oh yeah, he totally did it. Like, I don't understand what his game could possibly be here. When she holds up the photographs, and you know, you'd think that if this is a guy who's wrongly convicted, that he'd just be like, oh my God, I can cling to this. Here's something. But instead, he gets angry at her. Why would I want a retrial when I could have all this? And he's like joking, but not. It's a weird moment. Finally, so you're one of those. What will it take for Keith Mars to let sleeping dogs lie? Do you want to know exactly how I bashed your friend's brains in? No, I don't. That's not happening. I don't buy this guy. I knew your mom when she used to visit the office during lunch hours. Oh, shit. And then, you're a very dedicated young lady. Certainly didn't inherit that quality from poor, scattered Leanne. Unfortunately for you, that makes you your father's daughter. And she says, my dad tried to save your life. And he said, I meant your real father. Think about it, Veronica. Look in a mirror. This is so harsh. Are you the product of a schlubby sheriff or the king and queen of the prom? Which I kind of love that this show is like, oh yeah, we are going to cast somebody who is so like wholesome and perfect looking that king and queen of the prom just makes sense for her parentage. Like, I've never seen Kristen Bell's parents. I wonder what they look like. But this is, to me, smelling of, this guy's like obviously he's on death row. Like, he's going to die. But he must be getting something enormous in exchange. Like, his family must be getting taken care of forever, or, you know, medical treatments for his dying daughter, or like, there's got to be something enormous happening here to get him to make this kind of sacrifice and to say, I bashed your brains. And like, you didn't, though. They maybe like did a fucking Craigslist casting call to find somebody who seemed like a goddamn serial killer, because you fit that bill for sure. But this doesn't make any sense. And I just can't, like, So I just wanted to talk about that right off the bat, and the fact that he like says that that is not her father. I tend to think that despite not wanting to take anything this particular guy says seriously, I think he's telling the truth on that. I think that's the one thing that he's told the truth on. Let sleeping dogs lie is also really like telling, you know, obviously there's something else here. Don't want you getting involved in it. Don't want it being all brought back up again. But what does that mean? So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. And the look that she gets, like she flips out, you know, the whole thing. Goes into the car and just cries. Because I think she knows the truth. And I think that she has suspected something of this kind real deep down. Like it never really surfaced, but that there was like this sort of, you know, that twinge you get when something almost occurs to you and you're so aware that you don't want to be thinking that you tamp it down before it even gets a chance to really like crystallize in your mind. I kind of feel like that's what she's been doing. All right. So now let's talk about the other plot that's going on here, which is the purity test. The episode starts off with, after the cold open with Veronica meeting the lawyer, she's just gotten out of the shower at gym, and this is one of those things that I think I've mentioned before. And there was recently on Overdue, they covered the book Carrie. And I have always said this, that at my school, yeah, we had showers, but nobody used showers. It like just didn't happen. If you were pouring sweat, like nobody worked up that much of a sweat in gym class anyway. But if you poured sweat during like practice, you didn't shower and then go home. You went home and showered. And I always wonder about what kind of schools there were where people really did use the showers all the time. But in this scene, she goes back to her locker and her clothes are gone. And all of these snotty girls are standing around and laughing at her. And she finally finds her clothes all dumped in the toilet. And it's rough. There was something else I covered recently where this happened to one of the girls. She gets her stuff dumped in the toilet. Oh, you know what it was? It was that book by Rainbow Rowell, Eleanor and Park. Happens to Eleanor at one point. But this scene is like, oh man, it is rough. I did not get bullied like this at all. And I didn't actually witness bullying like this, to be honest. Like, there were people who kind of like got like teased, but it was never like to this degree where they would like harass somebody or do something to their property. Like, it never really got to this point. And I don't know if it's because it wasn't as much of a thing where I went to school, if I just wasn't in the right crowds to see it, or if this is just not quite as common a thing. Because I feel like this sort of thing went on in middle school. That's when I saw shit like this happen. But yeah, so this girl comes up, and her name is Meg, we find out. And Meg is really like trying to be supportive and gives Veronica her cheerleading uniform to wear out, which I just need to just address how fucking amazing Veronica looks in the cheerleading uniform, and it makes me very angry. She just looks so good, and I'm just like, how dare even. But she is like, was on the top list of suspects for me because she was so nice, and because the last person that was friendly to Veronica in one of these like kind of self-contained storylines wound up being the baddie. But yeah, this girl is kind of a goody two-shoes. She hangs out with the cool crowd, but she's not really part of that culture. It's just that she's dating this particular dude who is, I guess, like, I wonder about like the different caste systems, because she is willing to associate with Veronica Mars and kind of, you know, I don't want to say put her reputation on the line because that feels a little too extreme, but she gets like kind of side-eyed for it and does not seem bothered by that at all. She's perfectly willing to put up with that. She's going to audition for the musical later, and apparently she tends to be a shoo-in for like lead roles, but she kind of screws that audition up because she's upset. And she's not sleeping with her boyfriend, which is apparently in this crowd also kind of surprising and unheard of. And the guy is framing it like he's waiting in front of her, but as soon as she walks away, he's lamenting the fact that he's not getting laid. And this is when we find out about the purity test, which is this ridiculous quiz online that you take that will tell you what percentage you get, what percentage pure you are, and the remainder is how dirty you are. All of the things that you could do that are dirty and wrong, and illegal and whatever. Shoplifting, smoking weed, having sex, and it gives you the score. And this is something that gets taken absurdly seriously. And listen, this is a real thing. I don't mean this test exactly, but I'm sure that does exist. But what I mean is people getting obsessed over this kind of shit in school. Oh my God. I remember this kind of stuff circulating. The internet was not as much of a thing when I was in school. We had it and we used it for research and online chatting and things like that. But these sorts of quizzes weren't really making the rounds the same way. It was really magazines, and they would get handed around like crazy, and everybody'd be taking the different quizzes. And it was just what the quiz said about you was something that you would think about all day, into the next day if other people continued taking it. It was crazy. And so this felt super, super believable to me. There were such a variety of different things that those quizzes could determine. Are you a good kisser? What are you going to grow up and do in your life? How much money are you going to make? Anything that was about your identity, because as a kid, you don't know who you are. So you're interested to see what this makes of you. And oftentimes it never comes up with anything you haven't heard a million times before, but it's just you want something to validate you. So yeah, anything under 60 is really slutty, this girl says. And Duncan really points out, Duncan's gaining points with me. When she says anything under 60 is really slutty, he says, unless you're a guy. And I was like, boom, there it is, Duncan. Thank you for saying those things. And yeah, this dude over here who's dating Meg tells her that he got a 91, which I do not believe. But all right, sure. But yeah, this whole thing, I actually like, as much as frustrating as it is, and as sort of gross as it is, I think is a really good basis for the storyline here. So yeah, then we go to the scene where Veronica is watching Wallace take his quiz at home, and he takes his purity test, and he first of all tries to be oh, I didn't take it. And then when he tells her that he got a 70, he's actually bummed that it's so high. So she unzips her hoodie to flash him, but she's wearing a sports bra. It's nothing that he wouldn't see if she were in a tank top, really. And just as she does that, his mom walks in and is can I see you in the kitchen for a minute? And basically lectures him about how Veronica has a bad reputation. Her dad has a bad reputation. I don't want you hanging out with her anymore. And we find out later that he has invented a secret fake friend, a imaginary, perfect, mama's boy, straight A student friend to tell his mom he's hanging out with when really he's going over to Veronica's house, which is super funny to me because usually that kind of shit gets invented so that you can go fuck somebody. Like when you are in high school, you create either a fake friend or fake parties, fake events to go to get out of the house and go see your boyfriend or girlfriend. And this is just a chaste, like, friendship that he has to lie about. And there's something really amusing to me about that. So what's going on with the tests online is it turns out that you can pay and get somebody else's score. And these are going, like, up on people's lockers. They're being painted on people's lockers, and some of the questions are about, like, what sexual positions you've tried, if you've cheated on somebody, if you've ever slept with a best friend's boyfriend, which one girl's screaming at her friend about in the hallway. There are a lot of questions on here that make me go, like, would people really answer this honestly? Like, as adults, I feel that we would, but as teenagers, would they really? If you fucked your best friend's boyfriend and the quiz asked, like, would you really tell the truth? If they did, like, more power to them. But there seems to be, what happens is that everybody who, like, took this, I guess, had to sign in, like, via the school server. So the only way that anybody could have taken this test, because Meg has a really bad score on her locker. I think she has it's a 48. And the fact that she, like, swears up and down that she didn't take this quiz, the only explanation is that somebody got her password and went in on her profile and took the quiz. She says, I never took it, period. Not just that's not the score I got, but I never took it at all, which I feel like is important because on something like that, I don't know if you could, like, retake it. So if she had taken it once already and tried to say that wasn't the score she got, you know, I don't know how that would work. And apparently, I don't think Veronica took it either, because when Wallace asks her, she doesn't actually answer him. She just kind of gives him a look like, really? So later on, we see, like, on her locker, it's 19, I think is what she gets given, which obviously is not, like, we know Veronica. And has she done some shady shit? Almost definitely. Like, yes. But if not for being fucking raped, she'd be a virgin. So there's got to be a ton of questions on there that she would never answer yes to. And I'm just, you know, this whole thing starts to get really, oh, it's a 14, says Nancy. Yikes. So, yeah, things have gone nuts in this school. Like, it's $10, too, to get another person's score. Which, I don't, like, would you guys pay for that? I'm not doubting at all that people would pay for that. Don't get me wrong. Because that's, like, a complete legit business model. But, I'm just wondering, like, if you were dating somebody and you kind of wondered about this stuff and you felt pretty confident that they would tell the truth when they took the quiz, would you pay for it to find out what they said? Meanwhile, Meg's boyfriend really thinks that the score is true, that the answers that she gave indicate that she cheated, or at least, like, I don't know if they were technically together, but that there was some guy in Spain who was into her that she, like, hooked up with, so that she's saying that she's a virgin, but she's not really because she hooked up with this other guy. And Veronica is really taking her side in this, like, believes her and is confident that she's going to be able to get to the bottom of this. So, of course, I assume almost immediately that this girl has to be a terrible person. But I just don't see anybody inflicting on themselves what winds up happening to her. So it wasn't making a lot of sense. Okay, so this is when she befriends the hacker, Mac. And this girl, it turns out, is the one who created the whole system for paying for other people's scores. We don't find that out until later. But she has this really garbage car that she locks her keys in and Veronica helps her out. And she winds up sort of like helping Veronica track down who's using other people's accounts, because later on somebody is signed in under Veronica's name. But yeah, she's the one that's collecting the $10 and she's like broke. So I love the fact that at the end, when Veronica realizes that this girl is actually the one that like is taking everybody's money, she's not even mad about it. She's like, oh, you know what? That's pretty legit, actually. Like, bunch of rich kids and you're taking their allowance, probably like 10% of their allowance for the week. That's actually good on you for having that enterprising spirit, which I really liked. So she tells Veronica about this dude who works in the computer lab, who's the teacher, and suggests that she could get the password of her friend. I'm trying to remember exactly whose password she's trying to get at. Because I think that she had somebody specific in mind to start off with. Let me see. Do you guys do the school district's IT consultant? But she doesn't want his password, right? It's whose password is she trying to get a hold of at this point, Nancy? Spoiler alert. School district's IT consultant's hot. Not my type, but apparently Veronica's type. Because when he turns around, she just has a little moment of just like, oh, damn. Yeah, I'm trying to find this moment. She's saying every student has an email address that's easily accessible. Meg would be yada, yada, yada. That's the easy part. Anyone can buy a copy of the test, but to post the results in the first place, you need to use your password. Who has that information? Only the student and the IT guy. So this, I guess, is her attempt to see if he would give up the password. So it's not really necessarily, I think, that she... Oh, okay, yeah, it is. Thank you. I'm like on a different, everybody's in the chat, like explaining it to me as I'm trying to like piece it together on a different tab. But yeah, so she made up a story in order to see if he would be somebody who would just give it out. And he is not. He tells her that he could lose his job over it, which is pretty, that's, good motivation and a pretty solid, like, cross off that box. So now she has to start looking into other avenues for people to figure this out. There's this amazing, like, she's getting her photo taken by Wallace, and she's holding her hands up in this weird way, and he asks why she's doing that, and she says, so that one day in your memoirs, you'll describe me as inscrutable, which, I really enjoyed that. I don't know why that line stuck with me so much, but it really did. And she's doing this in this room across from the property that Wallace's mother rents to this guy. This actor, apparently the name of the character is Jeremy, but this actor is really good at being that low-key sort of threatening that is not necessarily violent, but feels unstable and is just like, those people who just know exactly where the line is. They know exactly how far to push it and when to stop because they've done this before and they can read people pretty well and they understand human nature and they know how the law works. And he has figured out exactly how to handle people who are overall decent human beings, who have something to lose, who are law-abiding, and he is causing some trouble. So he hasn't paid for his rent in a couple months, and when Wallace's mom comes to talk to him about it, he immediately goes into this whole, oh, well, you know, can we talk about this later? Because I'm a little fuzzy from taking painkillers from that fall I took when I tripped over like the front steps. You really should get those fixed. So insinuating I'm not paying rent, but you can't do shit about it because I could sue you and you don't want that headache. Which, honestly, that's the kind of thing that, like, in the mindset that I'm in now, I would call his bluff on that so hard. And don't get me wrong, I understand why she doesn't, but she's got kids. I don't. And I would definitely be like, oh, really? Oh, you're going to try and sue me? Go ahead, buddy. Yeah, I'm sure that's why you're fuzzy. I'm sure you're not taking any illegal substances. I'm sure that was prescribed to you and that you're in a lot of pain that would definitely be picked up on by a, like, X-ray or God knows what. Just go ahead, you know? And he, later on, is in their house when they get home, using their stove. And she points out that he has his own stove, to which he says, no, I have a hot plate. Again, trying to act like I don't owe you rent because of how shitty this apartment is. You knew what it was when you moved in. You don't get to be mad about that now. And she doesn't want Wallace getting into a fight because that's what he starts to do. Is like, get up in this guy's face. And in order to protect Wallace, she like tries to keep the peace and tells this guy, go ahead, fine, make your dinner. Which I can't emphasize enough how enraged I would be to find somebody standing in my house. And if I was with Owen, for Owen to be like, all right, fine, go ahead and use our kitchen. Oh my God. I would lose my mind. I'm just like, I'm trying to think what I would even do. I would call the cops. Pretty sure. Like, I don't want to be a cops calling person. But you don't come into my kitchen. You don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? Just warning everybody who's listening out here. That is where I draw the line. You can fucking, I'd rather have you in my bedroom, to be perfectly honest. Kitchen is personal. Anyway, so this fucking guy is so pushy about like everything, and Wallace goes back to Veronica's and is complaining about this dude, and she mentions it to her dad, who says that he will look into it. But Wallace's mother is not interested and tells him, how about this? I worry about my child and you worry about yours, in this real pointed sort of like, what's your kid up to, you bad parent? And I respect so much that he does not let this get to him, because I wasn't sure what he was going to do, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he just sort of let it go. Like, I have kind of mixed feelings, I guess, in the end about how Keith winds up handling this. I'm glad he still went ahead and did something, but it was a little sketchy the way he chose to handle it. And I'm not 100% that it was like the right thing to do. Although I don't know what's a better option. It's a really weird situation too, because like this guy could try and get after her for like harassment, but Keith isn't like really her friend. She didn't tell him to do this, but you'd have to prove that in court. And I guess it really comes down to like, this dude showed up in his house, and I think he had his like shoulder holster on when he showed up. So that's pretty intimidating. Like, I love the whole way that this goes, actually, because when he comes home, Keith is sitting on his counter drinking a beer, just sitting there, which I just can't with how baller that is. Like, guys, This is the sort of shit that you fantasize about doing. Keith, guy, how his balls must be almost impossible to contain. How do you do this? Like, it's just, he broke into the guy's house and then just sat there drinking one of that dude's beers, waiting for God knows how long. Didn't know when this guy was going to get home. That gives you 6 hours to pack up all your stuff. This dude laughs in his face, says, I'm not going anywhere. Keith just continues to sit there, and it cuts from that moment to 6 a.m. when this guy's alarm goes off, because I like to assume Keith set it to 6 a.m. That's my headcanon. This man did not set his own alarm. Keith told him, you have until 6 a.m. to move out. And his alarm goes off at 6 a.m. That has to be, right? So this goes off, and my question is, between the cut from the kitchen, when Keith's sitting there and this dude closes the fridge again and tells him I'm not going anywhere, to this moment where Keith is sitting next to his bed, what happened? Did this dude tell him to leave, and did Keith pretend to leave? Or did Keith just sit there and this dude tried to pretend like it didn't bother him, and then Keith like crawled into his bedroom? Like, my question, I guess, boils down to, was Keith there all night? Because I feel like he was there all night, which is bordering on like unstable behavior, which I guess is what he's trying to do, right? I'm going to jump back here a little bit to see exactly what it is, because Keith looks up this guy's record, and I'm going to pause it right so that I can see. Passing bad checks, public nuisance, resisting arrest, probation violation, missed probation hearing, passing bad checks again, disorderly conduct. Okay. So disorderly conduct, later on when Keith points out, like, that's the thing that you like to do, right, is to take advantage of people and then cause a ruckus and act crazy. So, okay. Oh, Agnes, I'm trying to get used to, I'm sorry. Agnes says, I think the kitchen is Wallace's and Jeremy only has a room. I don't think so. I think that's his quote kitchen, because when I kept an eye out, I did not see a stove. It was just a bunch of countertops. So it may be, but the way that it's set up doesn't look like the regular. I didn't see the stove sitting there. I just saw a sink. So I think that this is his place, but you might be right. I don't know. I'm trying, like, the decor sure doesn't look like something that, Jeremy would pick out, but it could also have come decorated already, I guess. Or maybe the stove was just like outside of the shot. He had taken Wallace's keys though, and I doubt Wallace would have a key to the cottage. Yeah, I guess that's true, but how did he get into the guy's bedroom? Wouldn't that be locked with different keys? Did he just like... but Keith knows how to pick a lock. So then why did he even take Wallace's keys? Or was he fine with like, oh, I'll get into the house using your keys because that's your area, but I'm not going to break into your house. I'll break into his place, which I guess that's like a fine line to draw. So Agnes's theory is that Keith chilled on Wallace's couch until 6. That just seems so risky to me, that he would be in their house when Wallace's mom told him not to get involved, in their living room on their couch. I can't think that he would do that. That just seems to be crossing a line to me that I don't think he'd be willing to do with somebody who declined his help. Like, that's not okay, honestly. If he did do that, I have a problem. I do have a problem that's more concrete with how he decided to handle this. But I think it was Wallace's fridge and he was drinking the mom's beer. Like, and see, I get what y'all are saying and you might be right, But if that is the case, then I just am so much less cool about what Keith did here, which maybe is supposed to be part of the point, but ooh, that's really sort of blurring boundaries here. Don't know how I feel about that. But yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's not get focused on that too much. So then he, at 6 a.m., you ready to impress me with your nuttiness? 'Cause I hear that's your shtick. Come on, son, perform. Let's see the show. Let's see if you can scare me. And this kid is just sitting there completely like tied up in his bed, like frozen. And Keith bends over his bed and goes, you want to see the crazy? You pay attention, because this is going to get good. And then he just starts to like yell and flail and throw things and grabs the guy's mattress and then starts to like yank it so that he gets out of bed. And the whole thing is like, honestly, a lot. So I think you guys are right. I think that because there is in the corner of this room, there's a tiny little like, what do you call it? Tiny counter and what looks to be a full-size fridge crammed in there, but it's a tight, very small spot. So I think you're right that he was in, but I'm really going to like headcanon it that he was in Wallace's kitchen and then did not spend the night on their couch, that he left and came back, like had already set this guy's clock and then just came back at like 5:45 in the morning and broke in. 'Cause I just can't be okay with the idea of him sleeping on a couch in Wallace and his mom's house without them. They're okay. Like, I can't be okay with that. I'm sorry. It's just too much. Because my immediate reaction is to be in his mother's shoes. And if she came downstairs for anything, she's going to find him asleep on her couch, a stranger that she doesn't trust and was told not to trust. Does that help anybody? That seems like not only gonna ruin things between Wallace and Veronica, like she would never allow him to hang out with Veronica again after something like that, but also just how terrifying that would be to have a man in your fucking house. Oh, that's right. They stayed somewhere else because of the gas. You're right, guys. I forgot about that. Because that's when things get, like, things really escalate. I was wondering if this dude wasn't going to, like, try to damage their home, which I guess is their concern, too, hence not staying at home. It's weird to me, though, because, like, she's not staying with her kids. Well, Wallace has a little brother. Is it just the two of them? So Wallace tells her that he's staying at his friend's house. I think he says Fernando is his imaginary friend's name, something like that. But she doesn't want him staying with her. Like, where did she stay? That's weird. It's just kind of a weird thing, you know? But okay. All right. So he maybe stayed in the house. Okay. He knows they're not home. All right. I'm calming down. Okay. I get it. It's just really, like, I just really ramped up all of a sudden, guys. Things started to fly off the handle in my head. Okay. They weren't home. And they thought a crazy person might be trying to kill them or at least harm them. At the very least, just make their lives untenable. And he decided to stay in that empty house and fuck this guy's night up. Okay. I'm all right with that. As much as it's still kind of like, but at least they weren't home and had been driven out by somebody. So that changes things a little bit. I want you to pack your things. I don't want you to talk to her ever again. You are not going to drop by. You are never going to call. You never lived here, right? And then he sits on the front porch drinking coffee and reading a newspaper as this guy packs his shit up. Like, he stays there and supervises the whole thing. And it's great. It's wonderful. And he's very, very satisfied. Like, he leans back in his chair and just, like, breathes in the beautiful morning. It's just so good. And he said something later to Mrs. Fennel, about how, like, getting people to leave is, like, his favorite thing to do, which really makes me go, what does that mean? Because that feels like it's specifically referencing something. So yeah, that's the conclusion of that. And his mother actually goes and says thank you and is like, you know, I treated you pretty shitty and you still decided to help me. And that's impressive. And I may have misjudged you. I'm sorry about that. And he is also like, yeah, people say all kinds of shit about me. I'm used to it. It's fine. Whatever. I'm just going to do the right thing, regardless of what people say. Who cares? Which, you know, is admirable. So that's that. And now they're kind of friends. So, all right, let's go to back to the purity test thing. The actress in this scene that plays Mac, Tina Majorino. That is a name and a half. She has been in a bunch of other stuff. I recognize her face. But this is so, like, this is so cliche, but is something that would totally happen. So they're trying to have Veronica sign into her account to check some, like, I guess to check, I don't even remember what. And when she tries, she's already signed in somewhere else. And it's like she's able to trace back. Mac is able to see exactly what room she's supposed to be signed in on, which is the journalism room. And she goes there and there is nobody there, but there is an email sent from her account to Duncan telling him about how she misses him so much. She can't stop thinking about him, that she still loves him. Also, I had VD while we were dating and I sure hope I didn't give it to you. Which, like, again, if the whole thing were known to somebody, like her relationship with Duncan and how that really went, this is not how somebody would frame this. And it surprised me the way that Veronica, like, goes to Duncan and is like, I didn't have VD. And by the way, like, I mean, you'd never slept with anybody. And I know that you can get VD from, like, you know, not actual just penetration, but I'm taking Veronica's word for the fact that she was not sexually active really at all. That there was, like, some makeouts and some petting and that was about it. So, come on, he knows that. And even if you did, you could not have given it to him because you guys did not have sex. So, but, you know, she still, of course, feels the need to say something about it. And I really do understand that. But the fact that this person, like, writes this, I feel like Duncan would have to know you didn't send this. Like, you know, he lets her get it out and and turns it into a joke and whatever. But it's a pretty, like, upsetting moment because he obviously, when she says, and I don't still love you, and he's like, well, I'm not still hung up on you, so whatever. And it's like, oh, you guys both are. And it's really, like, it's hard to watch, especially with the suspicions that I have about them being related to each other. Like, don't care for that. So they wind up figuring out exactly who it is. She follows, one of the girls, oh, I forget her name now, because she's hooking up with the IT director, and she assumes that's where this girl is getting everybody's passwords. But it turns out that this girl only targeted Meg because she wants everything that Meg always winds up getting. So she's not responsible for the overall, like, complete implosion of the school. Pam, thank you. Pam's the one who actually did it, right? The girl who she thinks did it is Kimmy. Is that right? There's so many girls that I have never seen before that now I have to keep track of in this. Kimmy is the one that she thinks did it, who's sleeping with the IT director, which, like, dude, what are you doing, IT director, pedophile? She might be 18. I don't know. But still, Jesus, she's a fucking student. And she confesses that it was Pam, that she knows that it was Pam, not realizing that there is a camera filming through the locker slats, which would never work. Those locker slats are not wide enough to film, but that's fine. No big deal. And that it's because Pam is so interested in Duncan, and Duncan is clearly hung up on Veronica still. And so she just basically, like, wants to ruin Veronica's life. And that it's Veronica who put her clothes in the toilet, or Pam that put her clothes in the toilet also. Like, which I love things like that where it's an attempt to take somebody down, but, like, what results in you throwing her clothes in the toilet, which you're doing to humiliate her. And yes, you succeeded in that, obviously. But you want to humiliate her to get back at her for Duncan being, like, into her. And this results in her having to wear a hot as fuck cheerleading uniform to go home, which I feel like is going to have the opposite of the effect that you were looking for. So congratulations, you played yourself. But yeah, so they wind up airing this little bit of confessional footage during, like, the school news hour and outing Pam in front of everybody. Also, Kimmy gets outed as a snitch, which, yikes. And Pam calls her spineless. And Meg's reputation gets cleared. And everybody comes up to her and tells her, apparently, about how she isn't, like, we never believed this of you in the first place, and yada, yada, yada. And she's just like, yeah, okay, sure you didn't. And I liked that she's, like, smart enough to recognize that you guys can't be trusted, obviously. Like, the instant anything happened, it was just curtains for me. And also, as much as I appreciate her name being cleared, and I use that in quotes, it does suck that it has to be cleared. Like, there's no just, and this is realistic, I'm not criticizing the show. There is no getting away from this kind of damage unless you're able to prove that everything was fabricated, that somebody was out to get you and answered all of these questions falsely on purpose. That's, like, the only out that you get from this kind of thing. Otherwise, it's everybody assuming that you just don't want your reputation ruined, so you're lying because you're a slut and you just don't want anybody to know you're a slut. So if it weren't for this, like, confession on camera and it being broadcast throughout the school, this would haunt her forever. Forever. The end. That's all that this would be for the rest of her life. And that's just really sad, you know? Like, I'm glad that things wind up working out for her, but the way that women are valued or not, it is really, really depressing. The damage that can be done from something like that a girl's social life would never recover from. So, yeah, and I like the fact that she, like, winds up, you know, getting away from all of this, but it's just really upsetting to know how completely she was going to have to be exonerated. And exonerated from what? You know, that's kind of my real feeling on this, is just like, so she was having sex, which apparently everybody in the fucking school is having. It turns out she wasn't, but if she was, who fucking cares? Oh my God, mind your own goddamn business, you idiots. Oh, I just got so mad, you guys. Like, but yeah. Nancy says, just ask Renata, what's her face, dolphin. What? Nancy, I'm sorry, I'm not following you. Renata Dolphin. I don't... Sorry, the woman from Brett Kavanaugh's yearbook. Oh, yeah. The one where they were, like, in the club or whatever it was. Yeah, I forgot about that. Was that her name? Dolphin? Was that her last name? Oh, that's weird. Don't think I would really like to have an animal name as my last name. I don't think that you can, like, even if it was something cool like lion, I don't know. Doesn't work for me. Pronounced dolphin. That's even worse almost. But yeah, that's so like, yeah, I don't know. Oh, video down. Oh, hi Chris. Sorry, I didn't see your earlier thing. I think that it seems like everybody else is getting me, but it's almost over anyway. Sorry, guy. We're about to wrap this up. But yeah, so like this episode in conjunction with the previous episode, which was about, I always hesitate to use the term like, oh, it was about this, because like that really oversimplifies what these episodes are like, because there's so much going on. But the last one was about a rape victim, and then now we're going into like the whole slut shaming thing. It's just been kind of a bummer in a lot of ways. I appreciate the reality of it, and I like that they're addressing these kinds of issues, but it is just kind of bringing some things to light that are very ugly, you know? And like I said, without this sort of fairy tale solution to her reputation being cleared, this girl's life would be ruined in a lot of ways for the rest of her high school career. So yeah, but at least it does not turn out that she's the bad guy, because like I had said, I was worried about that. And I was worried that like Veronica was going to have taken up for yet another person that she thought she could be friends with, and it would turn out that this is like, she can't trust anybody. So I'm glad that she has somebody that she's still friends with. I do have to say, though, that I was surprised at the reaction that Meg has to it, because she says to Veronica later, like, I appreciate the, like, getting the truth and that whole aspect of it, but as far as getting even, you may want to rethink that. What does that mean? Is she saying that she, like, playing that tape for the whole school was a bad idea? Is that what she's like zeroing in on? Because that is the only thing that saved your ass, honestly. I kind of, that irked me, I have to admit. I'm trying to find the exact scenes that I can read it back to what she says. Let's see. Not that I even care. And then, funny, no one's come running up to me, Veronica says. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's because people are afraid of you. Then something's working. Getting tough. Yeah, that was good advice. I needed that. The getting even part, you might want to rethink that one. I don't know. It feels, I don't know. It just feels really, she was responding to something Veronica said about earlier about first you get something, then you get even. Yeah, but like, what is she talking about here that she feels like the getting even thing? Because it feels like she's pointing to the video as getting even and acting like that wasn't the right way to handle it. And I just totally disagree. And as for getting even, that's not always a bad thing either. Like, there is such a thing as justice, and sometimes that's what getting even is justice because somebody profited off something that they shouldn't have, or got credit for something that they shouldn't have. So I just don't agree with that overall assessment in general that getting even is like a bad thing. I think that there are times, don't get me wrong, where you need to let things go. That the idea of getting even, like, for example, something like getting cheated on, unless there was like emotional abuse involved where you're like going to be responding to that, just to getting cheated, there's no getting even. You leave. That's your getting even, right? I don't see like burning somebody's clothes or the kinds of things that I see in response to breakups as being a good idea. I don't even think that they're probably that cathartic in the end, but this is different. This is somebody like specifically going out to harm other people, specifically trying to target women. Like, no, this is fine. I just didn't like that bit of judgment at the end. And then she like tacks on, you do have friends, Veronica. And I'm like, listen, Judgy, I've never seen you before. Let's just point that out. Like, show, if this is what you're trying to do, is act like, well, Veronica's not totally alone. This is literally the only person that I've seen be friendly to Veronica beside Toby, who was a liar and trash. Wanda, who was a liar and a narc. And, that's it. That's like it. Troy, that's the one. Not Toby, Troy. Those are the only people that I've seen be nice to her, other than Wallace. That's it. So you do have friends. Not that I've seen. You came to her rescue this one time. Good for you. But no, you don't get to be judgy about this right now, lady. Shut up. So yeah, that irritated me. And I felt a way about it, especially in response to like, she saved your whole life. Holy shit. Don't go giving advice like this in this condescending manner to somebody who just pulled one out for you the way that she did. Meg is a little Pollyanna. That's the right word, Nancy. Yeah. I think it's just not in Meg's nature as a character to get even. I mean, even like that's okay, but like, don't go pulling that kind of thing right now. This isn't the time, Chris says you do need to do Supernatural. That's never happening, Chris. Somebody could commission it, I guess, but they won't be happy because I've watched like 3 seasons of that show and I hated it. Sorry, everybody, but I call it like I sees it. But yeah, so like this thing with Meg, I'm hoping that like, I want Veronica to have a friend, but I'm kind of not sure about this friend because Veronica, for what she does, and I use this for a living term, even though that's not exactly what's happening, investigating, she has to do a lot of shady, not always ethically great shit, and this woman would not be able to cope with that at all. And I really don't want to hear it. I kind of don't want to hear it. But maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want the dynamic of somebody being like, hey, Veronica, you know what? That's kind of shitty. Maybe don't do that. Which, to a point, I can understand having that foil. But, like, I just wish that wasn't how they chose to have her sign off here after this whole thing. What about Mac as a potential friend? That'll be cool. That actress, like I said, I recognize her. I've seen her in other things, and I'm pretty sure she was a nerd in those other things, too. I think she gets typecast a little bit. But Napoleon Dynamite Nancy, that's it. Thank you. Because I'm picturing her with like friendship bracelets and I could not figure out why. That's exactly what it is. But yeah, so I could see her as being, especially because she was profiting off this, which feels Veronica-like. Veronica isn't even mad about it. So yeah, she was in Bones as an FBI agent. I kind of remember that too vaguely now that you say that. So that's about it. Do you guys have questions? Oh, it's the weekly check-in. Who killed Lily? I don't know. Guys, I really don't. Like, everything is so convoluted and vague right now. I'm sticking with Lily's dad. Until I'm proven, until anything comes up. Because so far, all we've got is that this dude who's going to go to the chair or lethal injection or whatever it is, didn't do it. But I have nothing in terms of a motive for anybody. So I've got no idea. Yeah. Anything else, you guys, that you want to ask before I wrap up? Because I'm over time. Y'all stop talking about this actress and everything that she's in. Ask me a question. This chat. All right. Did you miss Logan? No. I never liked him. Cliff, did you enjoy Cliff in this episode? He was all right. Didn't make much of an impression, to be honest. Yeah, it was a pretty short scene, and he just seemed irritated, mostly. Which, I mean, I would be also, because a fucking high school student duped me into coming and wasted my time. So, yeah. I feel like he reacted reasonably, but I didn't really get much of anything else off him. Yeah. And I wish that there was another Lily flashback. That's the only thing I did miss, is I just really like Lily a lot. So every time she shows up, I'm like, yay. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much to everybody for coming to the chat. Thank you again to Agnes. I'm sorry. I feel so weird saying it like that. Agnes, for commissioning this episode. And I will get used to it, though, I swear. And next week's episode is, let's see, I'm going to let you all know the time. It is going to be at 3:15 on Tuesday again, episode 10. This one, Leon got in touch with me, and it apparently had been commissioned as a regular episode, but Leon is going to tack on another $10 to boost it to a voyeur episode. So I had been like planning to watch this immediately. And now I'm not sure if I should do that. If you guys are like available for me to watch the episode right now live on camera on Facebook Live. Because once I finished this one, I really did want to jump right into the next one. But if you guys want to wait, cause I can watch it, around the time that you guys are, the 3:15 would I would finish watching it at 4:15, which means I would finish the recording at 5:15, which is just enough time, if I watched it exactly when it's been scheduled for next week, 3:15, or I could watch it now. So y'all discuss amongst yourselves and post in the Facebook group for Spoil Me and let me know what y'all are thinking. Within the next 10 minutes, I'm going to go make myself some lunch. And those of you who are just listening, there will be a feed that you can watch of me watching the next episode if you're interested in checking that out. So, yeah, keep your eyes open for that. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much. This has been really fun. And I will see you again very soon with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.